You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. We're glad that you are with us this evening. We have quite a lot to dig into. Victor Davis Hanson joining us for the first time after his surgeries later on the show on the live stream. Let's dig into the series of events from today without further ado. There are a number of walkouts being celebrated by legacy media outlets, local and national. These students, brave, stunning, ever wise in their teenage youth, are around the country, walking out of schools and protesting immigration customs enforcement. They have no grasp of the reality of federal law, of the consequences and why we have certain laws in place and certain law enforcement to uphold those laws. All they know is that they can get out of class, they can get out in front of the school and do things like we saw from this one northern Indianapolis school yesterday. So a lot of dancing, twerking on vehicles, yelling, "Oh, so very serious." Oh, yes, standing up against the big bad fascist government or whatever. Stupid, of course. I was a former teacher and administrator. I taught at Knightstown Intermediate School during a very big walkout in protest of, I believe, the Parkland school shooting. And I had students that said, we're going to go out into the hallway because we're really scared of school shootings. We're going to go out into the hallway at a preset time of day when everyone knows exactly where we are going to be in the least safe place in the school from a school shooter, and we're going to sit out there and we're going to protest. And I said, okay, any students that are out of my class are going to be marked as zeros for not being in class for particular work. And the assistant principal came down to my room and was very, very upset. How could I possibly do this to students' First Amendment rights? I said very clearly, it is not your First Amendment right to abdicate certain responsibilities that you have without consequence. Which means this: if you choose to protest, you take it upon yourself the consequences for that protest. The least safe place for students is a pre-planned protest in an era that we're all supposed to be very worried about violence and school shootings. Not to mention things that students are protesting on that they have no idea what they are protesting. One day later, while outlets here in Indiana and across the country are still celebrating the bravery of students for protesting against immigration customs enforcement, there was a tragedy that is yet the latest in a string of despicable and horrifying tragedies. In Jay County, which is just a little bit east from me, here in Greenfield, Indiana, where I broadcast, though the rest of my colleagues be in Washington, D.C., just down the road, an illegal immigrant driving a semi, because of course, was not satisfied that the semi truck in front of him, driven by Gert Pretorius, 44 of Geneva, traveling east on State Road 67, he'd slowed down for traffic for some reason. Well, this illegal immigrant, he doesn't have time for slowing down. He guns it, swings over into the left lane, and as he does so, plows into a van of Amish men. According to the reporting, 4 men were killed. One has made it out of a couple of surgeries. He was in critical condition. According to the Jay County Sheriff's Department, he is now stable. The 4 men were Donald Stripp, 55 of Portland, Indiana, Harry Eicher, 50 of Bryant, Menno Eicher, 25 of Bryant, and Paul Eicher, 19 of Bryant, and then Simon Girard, age 23. Donald Stipp appears to be the driver that was in surgery. The illegal immigrant driving the semi, we'll put a picture of the accident up on screen here so everyone can take a look at this particular incident. The semi truck you can see plowing over the van in the Amish community in eastern central Indiana. Mangled. Terrible. Here is the illegal immigrant responsible for this horrific tragedy. Behzan Bey Shahiv, age 30, Now, the article says of Philadelphia. No, he's an illegal immigrant. He's currently being held on an ICE detainer. He got his commercial driver's license in Philadelphia. That's why he's listed here. Now, Bill Mulligan over from Fox News did censor out the address of this particular individual. He was given a commercial driver's license in the state of Pennsylvania, a blue state, by Josh Shapiro's administration, released back into the country by the Biden administration. The issue of this commercial driver's license was July 3rd, 2025. He is an illegal immigrant. He is not a citizen of this country. He is employed by a trucking company in the state of California under one of the shadow companies that California allows to operate in its borders. Essentially, if you're in the United States, you run some type of trucking company, whatever it is, and you make the decision to flunk a lot of your safety inspections, you have a lot of problems, a lot of perhaps legal citations, then you can go to California and just change your name around, and California will rubber stamp of approval your commercial driving operation and shipping, and you can put more illegal immigrants out onto the road. Now, again, I'm going to level with you. You can tell I'm probably a little shaken about this one. I'm furious over this. This was the statement provided by Todd Rokita, the Attorney General of Indiana, to me this afternoon. He said to the Tony Kinnett Cast, quote, "This tragedy is absolutely horrific. This driver never should have been allowed into our country in the first place. Because Joe Biden imported millions of illegals from over 150 different countries without proper controls. It's everyday Americans from every state who end up paying the price. And we are still dealing with the fallout today." He said, "We are praying for the 4 men who lost their lives, their grieving families, and the entire Amish community as they face this unimaginable loss." The Attorney General doesn't even have the opportunity here to have prosecuted this particular individual who shouldn't even be in the country, because the driver's license, the CDL, that was given to, again, his name, Bechzan, this driver's license was issued by Josh Shapiro's government, the supposed moderate blue Democrat government. Tricia McLaughlin of the Department of Homeland Security gave this statement on the Scott Jennings show today. Check it out.
What is the Department of Homeland Security response to this today? And are we going to see a crackdown on these aliens being able to get behind the wheel of semi-tractor trailers?
Oh, it's egregious and it's heartbreaking, and I'm so sorry to those families and those individuals who have been impacted by this tragedy. This individual came in December of 2023, as you said, before he entered and was paroled into the country by the Biden administration via the CBP-1 app. And then, yes, he procured a CDL, a commercial driver's license, from the state of Pennsylvania. This should have never happened. I don't understand how, coming down the highway, Scott, as you know, these 18-wheelers, these vehicles are like missiles. If you are not properly trained, if you can't speak the English language, if you can't follow the correct traffic procedures and signals, this is an incredibly dangerous formula and deadly formula. So I think more information will come out about this individual. And I know that Secretary Duffy and Secretary Noem have been working together on operations to get these drivers off of the streets. We've been conducting operations at way stations and other places that CDL drivers frequent to make sure that these people are properly vetted.
Now, I'm going to level with you. This may not be perhaps the most level-headed suggestion at the time. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't care. I cannot say that I know any of these particular individuals. However, I have had the pleasure of working with individuals from the Jay County area Amish community before. Growing up in the eastern central Indiana, kind of all contractor, every guy learns how to do carpentry and roofing in local ministry as I did growing up. I know a lot of people in this community. And so this may not perhaps be the most level-headed and rational suggestion. But in Tennessee, the way stations that you often find abandoned, especially in the state of Indiana and other states, and I know we're at commercial time, but I'm going to finish this here for the people on air in Indiana especially. Every single way station in Indiana along the I-70, the I-65, the I-74, the I-69 corridors must be manned, and individuals that come through our state with commercial driver's licenses must, without any exception, prove that they are citizens of the United States. Absolutely. Because it is one in the drop of a massive bucket of individuals who have been slaughtered by people who cannot speak or read English, who have no idea the rules of the road, and have just been slapped with a commercial driver's license so some trucking company out of California can get cheap slave labor because they're too lazy, stupid, ignorant, and evil to run a trucking operation in the manner that America was built on. And the individuals in charge of that company should be charged equally in this vehicular manslaughter with Berzan. All right, radio crew, we'll send you to the commercial. Continue on the live stream in the meantime. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, I made the claim, drop in a bucket. Let's go through some of these, this actual pandemic. Because just in the last 2 years, March 2023, Ohio, school bus crash after a minivan collision, Hermanio Joseph, Haitian, national, undocumented. December 2023, Broomfield, Colorado. Jose Guadalupe Menvar Alas, Salvadoran, deported 4 times. DUI crash, 2 dead. March 2024, Marysville, Washington State. Raul Benitez Santana, illegal immigrant, struck and killed a state trooper during a high-speed DUI patrol, over 100 miles an hour, impaired. March 2024, Seymour, Indiana. Domingo Juan, he is a Guatemalan, undocumented, therefore an illegal. Fatal accident outside, later charged, taken into ICE custody. Again, 1 dead. April 2024 in Louisiana. July 2024 in Virginia. September 2024 outside of Dormont, Pennsylvania. Various illegal immigrants in the Dormont, Pennsylvania and surrounding areas. I know because they were reported directly to our show. It's one of our broadcast and syndication areas. 6 total deaths in September 2024 due to illegal immigrant drivers in Pennsylvania. Oh, wait, you'll notice that the CDL was issued to this Kyrgyzstanian afterward. Josh Shapiro not too broken up about that. He was busy ignoring the actual individuals that set fire to his governor's mansion. October 2024 in Texas, Jorge Peralta. October 2020, another October 2024 case in Texas. Rogelio Ortiz Olivas, hit and run crash, 1 dead. Joel Enrique Gonzalez Chassain in Texas in October, another dead. 2024, October in Missouri. June 2025, California. August 2025 in Florida, 3 dead. Indiana, October 2025. A Serbian semi-truck driver swerving onto oncoming traffic used a suspended family member's commercial driver's license, 1 dead. Ontario, California, 4 dead. Indian, undocumented Josh Preet Singh. This was obviously a national story. Also in New Jersey, October 2025, undocumented Mexican national killed 2. 2025 in Wisconsin, in Florida, Illinois, Tennessee, Texas. Into December in Tennessee. And now here in February of 2026 in Indiana and California. 4 dead in Indiana, 1 dead in California. And yet the story, all of the national media coverage, is on a bunch of high schoolers twerking on vehicles proudly because they're protesting ICE. You have congressmen who are using completely unrelated committee hearings. Like Chris Van Hollen, we're going to play this clip in a second when we bring the radio crew back. To go after Scott Bessent of all people in a Treasury hearing over illegal immigrant situation stuff. Now, we are going to continue here because I want to point out this affirmation posturing everywhere has become a significant issue. When I say it's become a significant issue, entire local governments are essentially stopping in their tracks to pass affirmation votes and that we stand with Minneapolis against ICE. This is in Prairie Village in Kansas. Oh, I'm finding out that we may have lost our particular connection with our cloud storage stuff. So hopefully our live stream software keeps up for just a little bit here. We'll let it run. Now, it's not just the left that has these particular issues. Again, we'll get to some of this stuff in just a little bit. Maria Salazar over on the GOP has also made it clear that the reason that we really need illegal immigrants in the United States is because of all of the wonderful free and cheap labor they provide.
But don't touch the nannies or the gardeners or the ones who are picking up the jalapeno peppers or the oranges or the berries or the ones in the dairy houses. Come on. Those people are helping us eat better, cheaper homes, cheaper vegetables, and better fruits. So those are the ones that we are trying to give a dignified status.
Or relying on slave labor sucks. We got to bring the radio crew back. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. We've got a lot to cover this evening. We're going to keep moving through it. The congressional hearings continually are just getting beyond ridiculous. And when I say the congressional hearings are getting beyond ridiculous, that is not some small, offhanded whatever. The congressional hearings now, it doesn't matter whether or not they have anything to do whatsoever with the issue at hand, which committee at hand is important, regarding if it's a Treasury or Finance committee actually pulling people in and talking about finance. If it's about judicial, actually talking about federal judges and the upholding of particular laws and the implement of them. If it's oversight, talking about oversight. Now everything is for the cameras. Case in point. And it's just something else to see Senator Chris Van Hollen go toe-to-toe with Scott Bessent. Why going toe-to-toe with Scott Bessent? Because he doesn't like the way that Scott Bessent spoke about Alex Preddy, the Minneapolis shooting situation. Which, again, is just a very, very weird situation, a weird thing to go after Scott Bessent for. And yet, again, doesn't matter what the committee is. Doesn't matter what's actually taking place. We're still going to get this ring around the rosy nonsense. Sorry, we're pulling up the clip. We've got a few goofy tech issues that seem to be persisting. Scott Bessent going up toe-to-toe with the Maryland senator, not over financial stuff, not over anything related to what he was actually voted into office to take care of here, but just to go after Scott over ICE.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I think you would agree that the credibility of the Secretary of the Treasury is important, and I want to give you a chance to retract a statement that you made on national TV. Alex Preddy was shot 10 times and killed by federal agents in Minneapolis. The administration, some administration called him a, quote, domestic terrorist. You suggested that Alex Preddy was culpable in his own killing because he had a gun in his waistband holster, which he was licensed to carry. When asked, you said, quote, I'm sorry this gentleman is dead, but, and you went on to say, he had a weapon, suggesting that he was culpable in his own killing. So, Mr. Secretary, today, would you like to retract that statement?
I would not. And would you like to express remorse over the death of Ashley Babbitt here in the Capitol?
Oh, I have expressed remorse over that. So
He is not, by the way. There's no record of doing so. If we're going to play, if we're going to play particular games, Scott Bessent is once again, a competent member of the administration, and forcing Van Hollen into making a pretty clever equivocation here. And as far as the record shows, Van Hollen essentially mocked Babbitt, said, hey, you break the law, you run the risk of finding out. Now, insensitive, especially at the time, absolutely. But that's what he's going after Scott Bessent for here.
Oh, I've done that, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Secretary, please don't. So you think I have other questions, but I actually would have expected you to take this opportunity to rephrase your response to that question.
It's a finance committee to discuss finances. What are we doing? What are we wasting our time for? Now, Bessent did end up tangling with a couple of other members of the House and the Senate over the last couple of days. He went toe-to-toe with Elizabeth Warren today as well.
The president also made a joke about you that I won't repeat, Senator Warren.
That was the
actually, I will. He said he had reservations.
If this was a joke, why not just say so?
It was a joke, and he made a joke about you too, Senator Warren.
Yes, he
got
did.
a lot of laughs. Got a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
So if you're taking notes here, what's the focus in the country right now? You have one side of the aisle that has all of their attention focused on these performative protests, performative outrage, all of this theater, so that a bunch of middle-aged white women on the left can simper and whine and talk about affirmation, and a bunch of high school students can run out and pretend to be brave and strong and stunning and what have you. While there are individuals that are suffering due to the carelessness and the recklessness of administrations like Josh Shapiro's in Pennsylvania, Gavin Newsom's in California, who, as we talked about yesterday on the show, took a weird victory lap over 20 years late and hundreds of billions of dollars down the tube, or into the incinerator, or his pockets more like it. The California high-speed rail system finally getting underway. And while all of that is going on, that malpractice, and then actual enforcement mechanisms attempting to be undertaken, whether it's Tom Homan directing operations in Minneapolis, or whether we see Scott Bessent tackling a number of things regarding the U.S. Treasury, whether it's economic incentives, whether it's the new Trump accounts, which are incredibly popular and groundbreaking for future retirement and a pathway out of enormous recurring debt ad nauseum, or dealing with Treasury investigations on fraud happening all around the country, from coast to coast, from festering sea to the pocket of your local representative, and maybe a shining sea in there, who knows? And instead, all we're doing is we're dragging administration officials in to these performative TV theater committees. Now, on the social media side, it's encouraging people who got out there. We played this clip a couple of weeks ago, I believe. There was some lady who had never put on Carhartt overalls before, but she was going to go protest, so she needs the outfit. So she puts on a pair of Carhartt overalls, which is not going to protect you from tear gas or any other kind of gas for that matter. Just ask any old man in a truck stop. Man, those things are not gas proof. Puts on a pair of Carhartt overalls, can't fasten them. Some kind of a leftist TikTok influencer named Elizabeth Rose has now been arrested for ramming her vehicle into federal agents in, again, attempted vehicular manslaughter. Sorry, that's the brave students twerking again. Here you go.
Federal officials say the government is doing its job, enforcing the border.
So putting on her decorative 3M respirator, her keffiyeh, her Carhartts. By the way, we're not playing this clip yet, but it took her a solid 5 minutes to figure out how to fasten the snaps on those overalls.
I just received a call from a lawyer telling me that the federal government is going to charge me.
Oh no! But you were doing so many important things, bringing attention to. You were going to go protest and wear the gas mask, and you were doing fun dances. Oh, what could have gone wrong?
And my options were to A, turn myself in tomorrow morning, which will be the 3rd of February, or wait for them to serve a warrant and knock down my door. So tomorrow I'm being charged with 18-USC-111. I don't know much information other than that. I have to turn myself in the...
Excellent. Excellent. Sell her stuff. We're going to send the radio crew over to commercial, continue on the live stream. Maybe we can break into what 18 U.S. Code 1-1 is. Here's the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal. So what this super intelligent individual has been charged with is ramming vehicles into ICE agents. At best, attempting to obstruct and impede law enforcement. At worst, attempted murder. Because if you purposefully wreck your vehicle into another, you purposefully ram your vehicle into another, that's attempted murder. It's attempted homicide. In Minnesota especially, but at the federal level, 100%.
morning. Clearly I've been crying. Here's what I will say. I'm so incredibly grateful for community and who have reached out and who are trying to help get lawyers and advocacy and help me scrub the internet. I will tell you that there's going to be a different page that is active. I'm going to have to take this page private, but you can find out more information at Notoriously Lizzie. There is a link in my bio to get you connected to that.
Or you can write her a letter when she's in federal prison. Now, you did see the shift there because it's all about the performance, right? You get to the end and it's, hey, all right, you can give me money over here and buy my merch. Thanks for tuning in. As you can see, I've been crying. I tried to record myself crying, but even I realized that looked so terrible and so pathetic. Now, you can be sure of one thing, though, that whether it's this particular illegal immigrant in Indiana, who again is responsible for the vehicular manslaughter of 4 individuals and the serious injury of another, or it's this fool attempting to, again, perhaps murder federal agents by ramming her vehicle into them, you can be rest assured that strong, level-headed socialist Mayor Zoran Mamdani of New York will visit her or visit him in prison and talk about how awful and terrible and evil the police are. Case in point, Mamdani came out and gave a big speech to New York over the care and the treatment of an individual who had, after a domestic call, in which police were alerted by members inside the house that this husband was being a domestic abuser. Apparently, he's schizophrenic. Police showed up to the house, and the guy starts brandishing a knife and starts running at the cops. The cop ended up shooting the guy. We'll play that clip in a second. Mamdani, however, says it's horrible that the man was shot. He should have been allowed to do his domestic abuse in peace, or get the mental psychiatrist out there to tell him how wonderful he is and how he also can hear the voices, because you got to affirm him.
And
oh man, we had it. I see it on the screen. We don't have it. Well, I downloaded it separately because I suspected shenanigans might be afoot. So we'll have to pick that up here in a bit. Zoran Mamdani, again, making the case. No reason whatsoever, not necessary, to go out and defend the foolish of the foolish.
And as you said, I spoke with the Chakraborty family and I visited Chavez in the hospital. And there is no family should have to endure this kind of pain.
Baba, no! Hey, put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife.
Now, you may notice, as I think I referenced over on the Sean Spicer show today, as soon as the cops come in, the knife that he is holding, big, long, paring knife, he allows it to flip down, so where now he's holding it as though he's going to stab somebody in like a horror thriller movie.
Yeah, put the knife down! Put the knife.
Look at him. He's got the knife up like this, you know, like all mentally healthy people do. Shuts the door to prevent him from getting out.
Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down!
So then he opens the door, rushes in with the knife anyway, and then he gets shot. There is an FA and an FO. Most of you don't need to be told. In fact, the majority of you don't need to be told this. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Thanks for sticking with us. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
If I could fall into the sky.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
There was one question that I was given today regarding all of this news, because again, normally during the day, national correspondent, what is the number one thing that either party can do for the midterms? The number one thing, the only thing that matters, because right now you have a lot of performative going on. You have this announcement, oh, the Clintons are being dragged before Congress, and oh man, you have all of this reporting on polls and interviews between Trump and NBC or Trump and this other outlet, and everyone's picking apart like a lot of theater. And the question that a lot of Americans have is, what's actually getting done? And so my answer, the number one thing for 2026, both sides have a weird relationship with the midterms right now. The left thinks they have it in the bag, and it's already screwing them over. It's already shooting them in the foot. The right, however, understands that there are some issues, but I haven't really seen a lot of people yet come forward with, here's what we do about it. The answer is whichever side casts a vision. We've had this conversation before. Whichever side casts a vision and says, hey, here are these things going on. Here's what they're going to do for you. When we arrest illegal immigrants and we get them off of the road, we get them off of the street, we send them back to where they came from, they don't get special licenses or perks or federal benefits or your tax dollars, then you get more housing, more jobs open. You are safer in your communities. Here's how, here's why, here's examples, here we go. When you do that, by the way, Tom Homan is excellent at this. No fluff, you have to paint the picture of the worst, most evil person you can think of and then call everyone that. Nope, you don't have to do the Christine Ohm approach. Just send Tom Homan out there, the calm airline pilot style guy. And he goes right up to the front, level-headed voice. Here you go. Here's what's going on. That's the strategy. Americans respect that. They respond to that. When Scott Bessent gets up and he illustrates certain details about the economy and what it's doing for you. When Lee Zeldin from the EPA gets up and announces there are fewer regulations on you and your business, and therefore, if you're not a business owner, the businesses that you're interacting with, prices are going down, there's less restrictions. That's a benefit. That's a good thing. When the Trump administration announces foreign policy moves and then describes, here's why it is better for Americans, Democrats have no idea why Americans weren't super furious about the narco boats that were getting blown up in the Caribbean. The reason Americans didn't mind is because they knew that was one less drug boat to make it to the shores of the United States. And so right now, the clear path forward, and I do mean it is a pretty clear path forward, is to make it way less about you. Don't get out there and go, I'm really great, I'm wonderful, everyone look at me, I'm strong and stunning and brave, and I'm Maxine Waters, I look like an old purse, but like, here I am. Instead of that, focusing on getting people driven results. That's effective. Now, the right is starting to kind of figure some of that stuff out. Like I said, Trump administration sending out Scott Bessent, sending out Marco Rubio, sending out Sean Duffy of the Transportation Department, sending out Lee Zeldin of the EPA. And they're getting results. It's awesome. It's really cool to watch. The left, however, is sending out Elissa Slotkin and Kamala Harris. Because of course they are. So Gavin Newsom announcing that they are finally ready to start laying rail in California went over really, really poorly. So instead you get Elissa Slotkin. Now Elissa Slotkin is still in a little bit of hot water alongside good old Mark Kelly of Arizona, who just came out against voter ID, so he's really struggling. Elissa Slotkin was supposed to go have a conversation with the Department of Justice regarding a video that she made that had some concerns. So instead of maybe releasing a press statement, she did what the Democrat influencers do. Shy of Rosa DeLaura's purple hair, she gets out there, she holds the phone, she goes, "Hi everyone, I'm Elissa Slotkin of Michigan. I'm like a senator, and I'm like really stunning and brave." Here you go.
Hi everyone, I'm Senator Elissa Slotkin from Michigan. Earlier today, I sent a letter to Attorney General Bondi, and
I sent a letter and I wrote it in cursive. It took me a while to put hearts instead of dots on all of the I's, but I did it because I'm like Elissa Slotkin.
To the lead Department of Justice lawyer in DC, Janine Pirro, telling them, one, I will not be complying with their inquiries and sitting down for an interview based on a 90-second video I filmed.
I don't believe in crimes that last less than 90 seconds, so I'm like stunning and brave. That's actually, if you change the letters in Slotkin, it actually spells brave.
And number two, urging them to retain their records on this case in case I decide to sue for infringement of my constitutional rights. Just to review the bidding, in November, myself and others filmed a 90-second video restating current law that simply says uniformed military have a responsibility to refuse illegal orders.
Now, just because I find her really, really annoying, I am absolutely going to pick apart that you don't begin a sentence with myself and others did this. No, not how you're supposed to say that. But, good for her. Maybe while she's not sitting down for an interview with the Department of Justice, she can sit down with a grammar tutor and figure out how subjects and, verbs work. Exciting. Now, over to the other side, Kamala Harris. Maybe Kamala doesn't have a 90-second interview to go talk about, but she needs to get back out there. She needs to announce she's here for the people. It's go time. And so yesterday, right at the end of the show, because, of course, after all of the crazy tech shenanigans of yesterday, right at the tail end, Kamala Harris headquarters account, her whole social media sphere for her presidential campaign, made an announcement, a kind of teaser. And it was this password attempt, way too online, the babysitter's weird, Project 2025 was real. Headquarters is the password for Kamala HQ. And so then it's like login accepted. And then it's tomorrow. And a lot of people, yours included, thought, oh my gosh, she's running for office. She actually is right, because she's kind of polling up there near Gavin Newsom in a couple of the Democrat primary polls. Certainly, though, it's got to be an announcement for running. It's not going to be, I mean, maybe she's announcing a foundation. You have that every once in a while, the Clinton Foundation get out there and announce, I'm having like a charity. Maybe. You never know. This could be something like that. No, it was much, much worse. I overestimated Kamala Harris. That's a problem. Kamala Harris, who is still in substantial debt after her presidential run, has decided it is time to release like a publication or like an app. Like, you know when people make fun of celebrities for releasing a wine? Trump wine, or Dan Aykroyd vodka, or you know what I'm talking about, like Gwyneth Paltrow gin, whatever. They make some kind of alcohol. At least when you get that, you get the alcohol out of it. Kamala has decided she's releasing an app for the youths, a Gen Z application called Headquarters 6-7 for the Gen Z crowd that the joke died like 2 months ago for them. But here you go.
Madam Vice President, what's going on with Kamala HQ?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. I have good news. So Kamala HQ is turning into Headquarters, and it's where you can go online to get basically the latest of what's going on, and also to meet and revisit with some of our great, courageous leaders.
Oh, thank God. What I really needed was more Jasmine Crockett music videos and Rosa DeLauro calling herself the Rizzler. Yeah, that's what was missing. Oh, we're going to get more of Representative Hank Johnson singing with an out-of-tune guitar. When we get Al Green teaching you how to shake your cane and scream about dastardly deeds undone. I also want to question the choice to dress up as Willy Wonka. Why? What? How did you have to kill and skin Grimace from McDonald's to make this suit? I'm just saying. I'm just confused. I've never seen a pinstripe cravat before either. That's wild. But we'll let her continue. Maybe it's a Gen Z thing. I don't understand. I'm too old.
They elected leaders, community leaders, civic leaders, faith leaders, young leaders. I'm really excited about it. So
yeah, you look excited.
Stay engaged, and I'll see you out there. Thank you.
So all of these Democrat Gen Z influencers announced they're so excited. They're going to have podcasts. They've been wanting a left-wing Joe Rogan for so long. They're so excited. They're so pumped. They're ready to get out there and impress all of the youths. It literally is the how do you do fellow youths meme. And in case you don't know the one I'm talking about, I'm talking about this.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
So we're going to flip the chair around. We're going to get all youth pastor and, rap with the kids for a second. So let me tell you on fleek, says Kamala Harris. Now, you may out there be wondering, before we even get into this, hey, hang on a second here. Didn't she try this already and it failed miserably? Why, yes. Yes, she did. As some of you have already commented, they've already done. Brat Summer. And it was a complete and utter fail. Taylor Swift ran out there and said, everyone vote for Kamala. And it didn't work. We've done this already. Remember right after the election? Well, if Queen Latifah endorses her and you don't vote for her, I don't know what it's going to take. This is Hillary Clinton all over again. When I do my impression of Hillary Clinton, I usually say it's just chillin' in Cedar Rapids. Again, back when Vine was a thing, 6-second videos before we had shorts or TikTok or Reels or anything like that. Hillary Clinton did this kind of weird, cringy stuff, and it was so awkward.
I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, it's really awkward. Pokemon Go to the polls. Sorry, radio crew, we're going to send you to commercial. I don't want to get in trouble any more than I already am with the FCC tonight. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Anyway, Pokemon Go to the polls.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I love it. I love it so much. It's great. Yeah, Kamala's here, everyone. Yeah, let's go. Get it up. We're excited. The youths, guys. Oh man. If there is one thing to learn about millennials and Gen Z, they are so ruthless when it comes to making fun of older people trying to fit in their generation. And yet here we are again. Again, the most embarrassing members of the left are people like Kamala Harris, like Hillary Clinton, that have tried so desperately to fit in with the youth. So let's see how some of the youths are doing. Kansas State Representative, for example, who's crying big crocodile tears over transports.
Hi, everyone. This is Representative Lindsey Vaughn here at the State House. And I don't normally post these videos, but I felt compelled today. We just wrapped up in Judiciary Committee, and in what was the most egregious abuse of our democratic legislative process that
we're going to let illegals drive with commercial driver's licenses?
I have ever seen.
We're going to mutilate children?
Committee passed out House Bill 2426, which is Kobach's driver's license ban, which makes it so that trans, intersex, and gender diverse people can't change the gender marker on their driver's license and birth certificates. It makes it so that it has to be their sex assigned at birth.
Oh no! Oh, so much worse! I mean, I was thinking, like terrible things happen in markets like Jim Crow and poll taxes, that kind of a thing. Or, maybe we were talking about Japanese internment. Perhaps the foundation of a lot of bureaucratic institutions in this country that have taken a lot of rights from individuals. There are all kinds of destructions to democracy that we could point to. But oh man, someone who's mentally unstable can't force others to participate in that? We're not going to have more Loudoun County high school rapes? Oh, well, that's just, oh man, that's just horrible. She cries about this for 5 straight minutes at the camera. This is what the youths are going to go see. Is that it? That's really what you want? A bunch of Tumblr era crying and mourning, weeping, gnashing of teeth? That's the move? How much money is flowing into, they're so proud of themselves online, y'all. They really think this is the strategy for 2026. I'm so glad the right is leaving some of this stuff behind. They are. We're starting to. We're seeing a lot of the influencer age on the right is going away. It needs to get the rest of the way away. It's good. Because some young swimsuit model coming on screen that can barely read and going, I totally like Trump. That's not convincing voters, boys and girls. Doesn't matter if it's on the left or the right. Doesn't matter. The influencer age should be over. So let the left do that this year. Let them. We're going to bring the Raider crew back. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. Just to refresh everybody on the kind of issues right now, the news that's coming out here in the United States, there are a series of violent crimes, a series of neglectful crimes which are being carried out because there are individuals who believe that their feelings and their affirmation of a group out there, because they're not actually going to bring the migrants or the illegal immigrants into their homes, but out there somewhere. What we need to do is stop everything and stand in super duper solidarity. I didn't get to play this clip earlier on in the show just because, it's just been a lovely week of various tech issues, but Prairie Village in Kansas had a beautiful big city council announcement where they, again, stopping everything to vote in favor of standing in solidarity against ICE with Minneapolis.
We are not the ones making this political. We are Minneapolis. Minneapolis is us.
No, you're in Kansas. Prairie Village, Kansas. You're not. You're not Minneapolis at all.
Every city across the country is in the same spot. This administration has intentionally attacked cities that it does not like for things that it does not like, because those cities don't bend a knee to the desires of an abuser.
So Ponytail Gandalf is making the case here that just because he uses big words, you're supposed to be impressed. That's it. We stand with Minneapolis because they refuse to be stood on by that which is standing on them of an abuser. We are them, they are us. Peace be with you and with your spirit. I'm Gandalf with a ponytail, and this has been a Kansas moment. This is the move. This is what they're coming out with. Voters are seeing this. They're not impressed. There's nothing here. This was supposed to be the affordability moment, right? Is Mom Donnie doing anything to make New York affordable? Nope. He's going and visiting people in prison that have stabbed police or have attempted to stab police officers and said it's the cops' fault. Where's the affordability? Where's Buddy Sanders? Where is he? They told me that I went to AOC's rally and I stared at her in jeans that she was going to save everyone and give me my pudding. And it didn't happen. Where's the affordability? All we're getting is a bunch of lecturing and whining and yelling and Maxine Waters shaking her jowls. And this is happening not just in the political institutions of town council meetings, but in these left-wing churches. Now, again, I'm using church very loosely here, where you have, like, for example, one Presbyterian minister saying, again, just going right into politicizing her entire, again, sermon, to the point where she is now using the name of Christ to suggest that he would endorse the most wildly outlandish things, nothing at all that has to do with truth or scripture or faith, anything like that.
If Jesus were here today, he would be a clinic escort, distracting women from the hatred of the protesters, or an abortion doula, holding women's hands and offering support and love as they end their pregnancies.
So, again, in the book of Jeremiah, I knew you before you were formed. I knitted you in your mother's womb together. The idea that from the moment you are conceived, you are a person to God. Clearly, because Christ cited Jeremiah multiple times. The argument that Christ would sit there endorsing abortion, hun, you can read the Gospels. Christ never endorsed sin. Go and sin no more was said by Jesus Christ quite a few times. Otherwise, what is he here to save people from? The political theatering that we saw in the sports arena in Delaware, that now they're incorporating DEI hymns into church. And I don't mean DEI hymns as like, oh, they're about diversity. I mean, no, literally the term DEI is being used in these fake hymns in Delaware churches.
Our neighbors in Ghana, de-ice our neighborhoods. Invite our neighbors in Ghana, de-ice our neighborhood. Invite our neighbors in, we're gonna heal this world with love. Tear down the fences.
Tear down the fence. Yeah, slip my wrists. Yeah, put scissors in my ears. All right. Again, huge shout out to leftist ladies as they age, looking like one of two people. They either look like Jennifer Welch / Nicole Wallace, or they look like the weird, short-haired, angry lesbian. You know what I'm talking about. It's always one of the two. There's never like a middle ground. And by the way, when I say that, I mean that I've noticed that as independent and right-wing ladies age, they can look like all manner of different people. Age naturally, normally. One turns into like on the left, one turns into an angry, bitter old short-haired troll, and the other turns into an angry, over-Botoxed blonde troll. It's very, very weird. It's a strange phenomenon. But alas, making up hymns and suggesting that you need to uproot Christianity or uproot Judaism or uproot, for example, the Church of the Latter-day Saints, uproot Mormonism in order to constitute and encourage all of this bizarre nonsense from the far left, it's not going to endear Americans. There is one thing I wanted to mention to the crowd here before we let the radio crew go to the evening and get into some of the bonus tonus section of the show. We covered the situation regarding Nancy Guthrie. Again, if I'm pronouncing that name wrong, I don't mean that out of disrespect. There was a report by TMZ that they had a ransom note. And they made a big, huge media blitz about it. And I said, I don't like that. And I don't like that because TMZ has a record of doing some sketchy stuff. Well, here we go.
To those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation, we will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions. We have made one arrest related to an imposter ransom demand, and a complaint will be presented to a magistrate judge later today.
The ransom was fake. By the way, one of the reasons that ransom was presented, because if you provide something like that to TMZ, they'll pay you for it. They'll pay for it. You have like a photo that you took, you were up on somebody's lawn taking pictures through their window, it's a celebrity, they'll pay for it. You record someone having a mental breakdown in the street while they're being attended to by police or medical officials, they'll pay for it. That kind of parasitic journalism also needs to go. Good. I hope that person who wrote that letter gets the max sentence thrown on. We're going to continue on the live stream, get to Victor Davis Hanson in a second. Radio crew, take care. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, a couple of points of order real quick here. There are some reports that I'm getting, at least according to one article, Dan Bongino, who also uses Rumble Studios. So again, just as a little bit of a disclaimer here, our show broadcasts to Rumble Studios, who then sends the show to YouTube and Rumble and X, and then a couple of TV affiliate partners. And Dan Bongino is now claiming that after a couple of his shows this week have also crashed and glitched out, he has claimed that attackers have crashed his live stream. I don't know if that's what's going on. I don't know if it's perhaps our network attached storage that is looping on the router and knocking stuff off. I don't think so. I don't have it set up that way. But we're not quite sure the ins and outs of some of the issues. Thanks for sticking with us. Really appreciate it. We are sorry that yesterday's show was cut a little bit short. We didn't even get a chance to thank the incredible individuals who have been members of the YouTube channel, given financially to us, or have given super chats. Again, you guys don't have to do that. But a huge thank you to individuals like Maggie, Bogdan, and Winter for being members for such a long time. We appreciate you for sticking around. There is one question that I do want to answer and kind of a quick mail time before we get into some of the bonus tonus and the Victor Davis Hanson. This would be from Cadence 4527. She said earlier this evening, what I want to know is how many of these deadly accidents happened during the Biden years. You and me both, and I'm doing something about that. I have reached out to a couple of individuals who are investigative journalists and receipt takers across a couple of different outlets and some independent journalists that I'm friendly with. And we are currently attempting to compile, during the last decade, the illegal immigrants who have committed vehicular manslaughter. So again, either DUIs resulting in deaths, especially commercial driver's license accidents. It's very difficult on some of these, the way that some of the states happen to write these crimes down. Whether or not individuals are legal immigrants or are work visa immigrants or are illegal immigrants. Certain states write those things down the same way. Looking at you, Nevada. So we're looking into that for you. I can't give you a timeline on it, but we are taking a look at that. Next question from a YouTube channel member, sick of the BS MLD. Can Pennsylvanians bring a class action suit against Shapiro for endangering our lives? No. And here's why you can't. First of all, prosecutorial discretion. If you as an executive decide there are some laws that you don't really want to enforce a certain way, you don't have to. And it's the people's fault who elected you to office that you remain in office. There are a couple of states that have different recall and impeachment procedures for their chief executive. It varies wildly. It's state constitutions and Commonwealth constitutions are quite an incredible thing. But at least in terms of Pennsylvania, no, that can't be done. Also, for a class action lawsuit, there have to be specific, identified, detailed damages. Potential risk, like, for example, charging a parent with neglect, even if nothing happened to the child, they can still be charged with neglect because something could have happened. while, for example, they were left in a hot car while the parent went into the bar. That kind of a thing, even if the child is fine, no damage is technically done, there's still a risk of it. For a class action lawsuit, there need to be a series of damages that can be identified. Now, again, this is why I suggested at the very beginning of the show that the best thing for Indiana to do in this particular instance would be to set up a series of patrols in collaboration with federal law enforcement to start checking commercial driver's licenses. Because this is getting out of hand really, really quickly. And, I don't want to be in a show your papers kind of country. That's not what a show your papers kind of country means either. If there is a crisis or an epidemic of law-breaking activity, it just so happens that be kind of the situation here. So that said, there's one other particular piece of news that I wanted to dive into. We'll have to save that for afterward because it is our privilege at the Daily Signal to work with Victor Davis Hanson. He's an excellent scholar, a brilliant historian. Anytime that I get to chat with him, for example, if we have him on an interview for the show, are getting to sit down, have a chat about whatever it is in the media, on the record, off the record, the man's got insight by the pound. And of course, going through the terrible surgeries that he did, we, like a lot of you, had him in our prayers. So we're going to swing over to a quick reset of the commercial break for the TV affiliates. We're going to come back and Victor Davis Hanson with his first video since he has gone away for surgeries. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
I've been off for a while, as you may have noticed. This is the first one I've done in over a month, so bear with me. I want to talk, though, very quickly today about what's going on in Minnesota. What I'm really disturbed about is the utter hypocrisy that we're seeing with this street insurrectionary movement. They have canonized Renee Good and Alex Preddy for resisting ICE officers, and they were tragically shot, and they become martyrs. Why did the left tell us that it was perfectly okay for somebody to go to a demonstration with a military-grade semi-automatic weapon with extra clips and just stick it in his waistband, visible sight of anybody, and then get into a brawl with law enforcement officers? At the same time, tell us if anybody had a concealed weapon anywhere on January 6th, they needed to be put in jail. We were told that over 400 people were convicted or would be convicted of felonies for assaulting officers. They were sacrosanct. We're also told that 5 officers were killed on January 6th. We know that none were. None. All of our most prominent liberals are saying the state of Minnesota has a right to do what? Occupy federal property, attack federal officers, prevent the enforcement of federal law. I thought the left didn't like states' rights. I thought they said that this was insurrectionary. Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. I've been off for a while, as you may have noticed. I had very quickly a mucinous adenoma carcinoma. That's a kind of a long name for a very rare non-smoker's type of lung cancer. And I was kind of not diagnosed for most of last year. I had a problem with breathing, and people thought it was valley fever, pneumonia, long COVID, etc. But I finally was diagnosed in September, October, and it was removed at the last day of the year. And everything went well. The cancer was removed. There was no lymph node, and the whole lobe was taken out. I woke up very happy in the emergency room, but then I'm 72, and apparently there was an arterial aneurysm, and 2 veins popped. So I lost very quickly a lot of blood, and thank God for the skilled surgeon at Stanford. He got me right back in. They took out all of the things they had just closed and started all over again, opened up, and they found them just in time. I had 5 transfusions. And so this is all a long explanation why I wasn't back. I thought I'd be back in about 3 or 4 weeks, but I'm still pretty weak. I have anemia. I got to get my blood volume back up, and I have never had it before, but I have this atrial fibrillation, and it's kind of a new thing for me, but I'm working through that. As far as the carcinoma itself, there were good and bad signs. You know how it is. People say, well, it was kind of big, bad. It spread through the air spaces, bad. But on the other side, it didn't get into lymph nodes. And so they came to the consensus that these things come back about 40%, 60% they don't. And now if I get better, they're offering me kind of a it's chemotherapy, and it doesn't have a great success rate, maybe 5% increase. So I'm going to make that decision. I only mention that because I'm going to try to come back slowly and periodically, but I can't predict when I will be here given these therapies that people are suggesting. I haven't made a decision yet. Depends on if I can get a little stronger. I want to talk, though, very quickly today about what's going on in Minnesota. And I know people have talked to death, the insurrectionary nature of Tim Walz, and of course Mayor Fry and Allison, the Attorney General. But what I'm really disturbed about is the utter hypocrisy that we're seeing with this street insurrectionary movement. Now, what do I mean by that? There is no coherent principle, none. Let me just give you some examples of what I mean. They have canonized Renee Good and Alex Pretty for resisting ICE officers, and they were tragically shot, and they become martyrs. Do you remember on January 6th, diminutive Ashley Babbitt? She was a 14-year military veteran, 14 years in the military. She didn't try to attack anybody. She committed a misdemeanor by going through a broken window. And there facing her were armed officers. They didn't react. They didn't shoot her. Officer Byrd did at a perpendicular, shot her lethally. What was the reaction to the left? They demonized her character. They said she deserved it. They went through her entire past. And they said that anybody who resist a federal officer should have known what's happening to them. Take Officer Byrd himself. Did you know that no one knew who he was for months on end? The media, the government, popular culture, they all conspire to hide his identity. We don't do that in America with anybody who lethally shoots an unarmed suspect. Think Officer Chauvin, and he didn't shoot anybody, but he was held responsible for George Floyd, and his picture was all over the papers in a nanosecond. But not Officer Byrd. And yet, we seem to know the names of the officers, both Hispanic, and I'm not going to name them, that were involved in these shootings of these two protesters, Pretty and Good. And the left tried to dox them. Take masks, for example. We were told that masks were absolutely essential, not just for health reasons, but sometimes demonstrators wore them. And the reason we were told Antifa wears them is because they didn't want to have their identities put out into the popular discourse, and people would learn who they are and attack them. They don't offer any such latitude for ICE officers. They wear masks only for one reason, not because they want to be ghoulish or to hurt people under the mask of anonymity, but they do it so that you don't go after their families or they show up at their house. So the left has another completely opposite position on that. Finally, how about guns? We were told again and again this was an armed insurrection on January 6th, but no one was found armed within the rotunda or the Capitol itself. There were some reports that people in the larger demonstration on the grounds might have had a firearm in their car, or one, I think, person might have had it on, and you would have thought all hell broke loose. This was considered just outrageous that anybody would go, even one out of thousands might be armed. And yet in the case of Mr. Alex Pretty, he had a very dangerous type of gun, a military-grade gun with a sight on it and 2 extra clips with perhaps over 40 rounds at his disposal, tucked in to his, and we saw in one video, an earlier video, tucked into his waistband. And he had it right as he confronted officers. My interest is not necessarily in the tragic circumstances of his death, but why did the left tell us that it was perfectly okay for somebody to go to a demonstration with a military-grade semi-automatic weapon with extra clips and just stick it in his waistband, invisible sight of anybody, and then get into a brawl with a law enforcement? At the same time, tell us if anybody had a concealed weapon anywhere on the January 6th and they needed to be put in jail. I could go on and on. I'll just finish with a couple of observations. We were told that over 400 people were convicted or would be convicted of felonies for assaulting officers. They were sacrosanct. We're also told that 5 officers were killed on January 6th. We know that none were. Some, maybe 4 or 5, committed suicide for unexplained reasons. One had a stroke, Brian, Officer Seknick, the next day. But there was no such reverence for the ICE officers in Minneapolis. People cheered on the fact that they were attacked and injured and hit by cars. This was just wonderful to do this. Nobody had ever thought, well, wait a minute. We were championing the Capitol Police so they wouldn't be attacked, and the protesters were all arrested that did attack for the most part, and they were sentenced to long sentences, long jail terms. I don't think anybody in Minneapolis will be arrested, indicted, convicted, in jail for what they have done to ICE officers, attacking them. I'll finish with states' rights. I thought the left didn't like states' rights. I thought they said that this was insurrectionary. You remember when Barack Obama, I think it was 2010, Mayor Jan Brewer of Arizona, she was just so desperate of the open border between Arizona and Mexico and the failure of the Obama administration to do anything to enforce their own federal law that she began crafting a state force to secure the Arizona border. What did the Obama DOJ do under Eric Holder? They sued, and they said this is states' rights, that the federal government essentially has a right not to enforce their own law, and no one can enforce it for them if they're not federal officials. So much for states' rights. And what do we see in Minnesota? All of our most prominent liberals are saying the state of Minnesota has a right to do what? Occupy federal property, attack federal officers, prevent the enforcement of federal law, and if federal officers are in danger, not to send out local or state or county support to help them. In other words, they're taking the states' rights argument right out of the playbook of everybody in the long, sad tradition from John J. Calhoun and Jefferson Davis all the way to George Wallace in 1963, standing in the door of the University of Alabama. These are states' rights people, kind of. When the federal government is trying to enforce free abortion everywhere, or they're trying to insist on gun registration and all of the states have to meet federal standards, or they're trying to make sure that everybody has a DEI special restroom, then everybody's for federal government. But not here in Minneapolis, not in Minnesota, not in the blue states. All of a sudden, these Democrats are reverting to their original form, and we should remember original because the neo-Confederate movement was a democratic project. In other words, what we're watching in Minneapolis is an incoherent, in one fashion, irrational attitude, theme, agenda, where there is no consistent philosophy about law enforcement, about people who protest, about people who bring arms to these protests, about people who are shot, about the reputations of people who come in contact with the police. It's just simply whatever the left thinks is useful for the moment, they make the necessary adjustments. And it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop, and they feel that they've got Donald Trump in an untenable position, that if he brings in federal troops to enforce federal law or to protect federal property, then he's a Nazi, he's a Gestapo, he's fascist, and if he doesn't, he's weak and cannot He cannot insist on law and order and treat Americans as Americans first and people of Minnesota or California or particular states second. I'm going to be talking more about this dilemma in our next short video. But for now, this is Victor Davis Hanson. Thank you for listening. This is the first one I've done in over a month, so bear with me. Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. Thank you for tuning in to the Daily.
Really good to have him back. Really, really good to have VDH back. Now, a little bit of end of news stuff for the day. And again, a little bit of bonus tonus here. Because, tech issues, be as they may, we're going to do a little extra stuff. I don't like being taken away from the crew earlier. So, a couple of quick things. Let's talk about Fulton County, Georgia. I've been meaning to talk about this. There have been a lot of speculations made. Of course, Tulsi Gabbard seen among the FBI raid where they went and they, as I believe, Chris Van Hollen, as well as Senator Warner, were crying about they seized voting machines. They seized them. They took them. And then they licked them? They're just looking at them. I mean, investigations I thought were fine. The whole nothing to hide business. Very, very, very upset people. So Fulton County officials moved on Wednesday to regain control of thousands of 2020 election records seized by federal agents last week. An emergency motion has been filed in federal court and has gone absolutely nowhere, as county leaders warn the investigation could have sweeping implications for elections nationwide. That's according to a CBS report. They've investigated the ballots. I have said this before. I will say it again. I am with a lot of Americans. This is why I really didn't care for Kristi Noem's response after the death of Renee Good. Yes, there should be an investigation. Absolutely, there should be an investigation, because then you get to release the results of the investigation. I like that. I do. I want the FBI to look at the stuff and then tell us what they found. And if they find something that's really terrible and awful and evil, and we knew all along that it was exactly going to be that bad, then prosecutions. And if it turns out there was nothing, then yay, America, we all go home a little bit happier, or at least it puts some things to bed. And that's why, by the way, at least up until right now, I haven't been out here making a lot of statements about it. I am sitting here patiently, mostly, and waiting to see what it is they release about these election records, because there are a lot of different journalists on the left, the right, the center that are saying everything, and they're getting very ahead of their skis. And I think that it's rather unwise. I do. I'm going to wait. They went in there to say, we're going to take a look at some stuff. There are some shenanigans that appear to be afoot, because again, there have been recent court decisions in Georgia, evidence that has been produced that shows, yeah, there has been some fraudulent behavior that has gone on in the state of Georgia regarding elections. That is an undeniable fact. So if the FBI says, okay, now we believe there's enough to go in here and take a look at some of this 2020 information business, all right, cool. Now this has Fulton County officials out here shaking in their waders, going, arrests are coming, arrests are coming. 1 if by land, 2 if by ballot, they're coming.
Well,
you are gonna play this clip, you sure are. Come on, you can do it, I believe in you. I wanna hear this man quiver. Look at him, he's scared and nervous because he thinks that they're gonna come drag him away. Are you kidding me? Man, I was excited to see the Fulton County official, the county's chair himself, express his deep, abiding concern that they were going to come in and start slapping cuffs on people here, there, and everywhere. One more time. Man, it's just one of those days, I tell you what. Well, also the president responded to accusations that arrests are coming. And may I say again, reasonable response by the president.
What is happening in Fulton County? I'm not doing anything, but the FBI went in because it's been under I guess, review for years. The cheating that took place in Fulton County and in that particular
Nobody knows what's in the warrant. What are
you're going to find out. Look, why would anybody be upset that they went in and they got the ballots, I guess, right? Again, they did this. That's been under review and under investigation for 4 years. And now they got a court order. They got a court order signed by
nobody knows what
a respected but liberal judge signed a court order allowing them to go and pick them up. Well, you're going to know what the ballots say because they're right now inspecting the ballot. I'm not involved in it, but they are inspecting and checking.
Again, I am not, at least for me here, I'm not too upset by that. They have the judicial warrant that's supposed to be the super duper ultra gold standard supreme du jour, by which we get certain information, and then warrants carried out, and federal law enforcement then goes in. It's not just an administrative warrant, that judicial warrant in place. So what's the issue? Well, the issue is that we have the extra super duper fear that the end is nigh. I did get that clip. Here you go.
Well, I'm told that. I mean, I received a call on Monday before last Wednesday, before the raid, that there were going to be arrests in Georgia. Secretary of State, his deputy, Sterling, I believe his name is, me, and 2 or 3 others. That did not happen on Monday. It didn't happen on Tuesday. But lo and behold, on Wednesday, the FBI shows up. And in addition to the FBI showing up, when Tulsi Gabbard showed up and we'd heard a rumor that she may be coming, I couldn't believe it.
Oh, man, it's crazy. I can't believe that a member of the intelligence community showed up with a group of agents from an intelligence community. No way. Oh, my gosh. What next? This is like them being surprised. I would say surprised. When you have committees that are set up for financial reasons, and then Chris Van Hollen immediately starts going after Scott Bessent over Department of Homeland Security or Department of Justice matters, you don't get to turn around and go, I was amazed. I saw her. Thought she was an actor. I thought she was a figment of my imagination. And there she was. Tulsi Gabbard in the flesh.
But I didn't meet her, didn't talk to her, but she was, in fact, there. So
goodness, man, he's worried you're going to doubt him. Like, you have to explain that you promise you saw her in person. Like, she's not just your fictional girlfriend from Canada.
That leads me to believe, and any rational thinking person, that there's something sinister going on here. There's something bigger than just the FBI confiscating the record.
All right, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. It's not Darth Vader. If Darth Vader shows up, the red lightsaber turns on, all of us, yeah, something sinister might be up. Yeah. If you're out there, just on a park bench enjoying a delicious sandwich, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of people run by you, and on the back of their vests it says bomb squad, you know what? Yeah, that's a reason for concern. You might get up and start running with them. But in this particular instance, if you just see the Director of National Intelligence show up with the Federal Bureau of Investigation to investigate something that intelligence agencies have previously been shown to have been involved in, given the records that we have, well, what's the issue? What's the problem? What more sinister going on? Incredible news conference. Oh, man, I love it.
That they took. So that's why I say that. But nothing happened. Now, after the FBI raid on Wednesday.
Do you see how quickly he glossed over that? He's like, I was told by my second cousin, she was called by Carol. Of course, Carol down from the diner, and down at the diner, they had something on the menu that was reported by Clara last week. They called me over a text message over on the Facebook that said there's going to be arrests a coming. And then I saw Tulsi Gabbard and I thought, oh no. And then nothing happened. But anyway, do you guys have family or friends that tell stories and they never get to the point? And then when they finally get to the point, it's nothing whatsoever? Like, you wasted all of my time on what is hopefully an amazing payoff. Nothing. I hope you're ready for nothing. Incredible stuff from the left going into 2026. Now, the reason I play this is because yesterday on CNN on Abby Phillips' show with Scott Jennings, a good friend of mine, Brianna Lyman, I think she's been on the show before. I think I can say friend of the show. She is the elections correspondent for The Federalist. And The Federalist, unlike a lot of outlets that have beats for particular categories, so you might have like an education reporter, you might have an national security reporter, foreign policy reporter. The Federalist team does something really cool, which is that they essentially, Sean smells something really stinky, and then he assigns the Federalist teams to a specific event. And then they go and investigate every single facet. It's why they won the Dow Prize this last year. Really incredible work. Brianna Lyman is one of these people who keeps a lot of receipts. That's near and dear to my heart. by all of the clips that I try to get to play on the show, tech issues or no. Well, she went on Abby Phillips' evening show that everyone tunes in to watch Scott Jennings for, and they got into a bit of a tizzy about Georgia. And Abby Phillips thought that she would play a little ball with Breonna Lyman. Didn't go as expected.
Votes. What are we to make of all of this?
Well, I think given that under Joe Biden we had millions of illegal aliens come in, it's definitely fair to be worried that there could be non-citizens voting. We know that non-citizen voting does happen, even if it is rare, according to some on the left.
I just want to make this clear that at some point when I am on this show, my grimaces and smirks when people from the other side of the aisle are talking will be much more refined than my dude over here. And again, that's very, very petty. That means absolutely nothing. I just want to make it clear. When you're on a panel, someone else from the other side of the aisle is talking, you want to give them the old smirk, the grimace, the stink eye, you smell something rough, you can do better than this. This is mild constipation. You need full-on Imodium facial expressions if you're going to do this right.
How frequent is it?
Well, if you want a list of it, I actually have some for you. Hold on one second.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, like actual numbers.
Yeah, no,
Get to page 6 or 7.
So Abby Phillips says, well, how much is this voting fraud going on? How many instances are there? And Breonna says, well, I brought receipts. Here are the numbers. And so you can see a little bit of hesitancy because Abby Phillips is known for pitching something to some individual somewhere and saying, well, do you have any proof of this? And then if they give her proof, she pivots away quicker than a child on a spinning office chair. So Breonna is like, well, yeah, I have the numbers. Just let me file over. I had to bring a suitcase to keep all of these particular incidents in one file.
I know.
I actually wanted to have a lot of quotes for you guys. All right, here we go. So a Georgia audit found 20 non-citizens registered to vote. 9 of them ended up voting in a previous election.
20?
Yeah, let me finish. In Michigan.
After how many years?
So she lists the first thing. They go, wow, 20? Well, that's not the point. Again, she's reading a list of events. And I don't know if you guys know this, but in arithmetic, you add the numbers together. Earlier on in the show, when I was listing illegal immigrants that had participated in auto accidents that resulted in deaths, that wasn't an exhaustive list. It so turns out that you add those numbers together and you have a really horrible situation that is a part of a pattern.
And, it's funny when you guys mock small amounts, but let's remember that Marionette Miller Meeks won her 2020 election by 6 votes. Okay. Imagine if there were 6 fraudulent
6 undocumented immigrants?
No, my point is that some elections are decided quite literally on the margins, and every vote counts.
But not a single presidential election.
Another small note. If you host a show, and you are going to host people from the left and the right to do some talking, some crosstalk, some arguments, things like that, may I humbly recommend not being a condescending jerk to everyone that you have at the table. There's a leftist that is making a point. Then you let them make the point. And if your point is better than theirs, then you follow up with the answer. Same with the person on the right, whether populist, conservative, libertarian, whatever you want to call it.
Can I finish my point? That doesn't, just because it doesn't impact a presidential election, does not mean that it is not worthy of attention.
What is the percentage of fraudulent non-citizen voting in America?
I don't have the percentage, but I have.
What does that even mean? What is the percentage of fraudulent non-citizen voting in America? What are you talking about? That's not it's throwing out nonsensical questions as a gotcha. Again, there's a phenomenally classic SpongeBob clip where they believe that Mr. Krabs is a robot. And so to do an interrogation so that Squidward and SpongeBob can identify whether Mr. Krabs is a robot, SpongeBob goes up to Mr. Krabs and says, "What color is my underwear?" and then slaps him across the face. And Squidward chides SpongeBob's like, "No, you blundering idiot." Like you have to actually ask actual, genuine questions to discern something. I know, weird example, but what are you going to do?
I have more examples if you guys want to cut me off. Let me just finish. Exactly.
I don't know.
Hold on a second. 41 non-citizens cast a ballot in North Carolina in 2016. 1,500 foreigners registered to vote in California by the state DMV. They were not citizens in 2018.
Oh, did they? Were they caught?
Did they vote? Actually,
did they vote?
It doesn't matter
just registered to vote. That doesn't mean they vote.
As a non-citizen is legal.
So,
and 18 U.S. Code Section 1015 subsection F says that anyone who knowingly makes a false statement when registering to vote can get jail time.
Here's the thing. I wanted you to go through it because I think it illustrates in and of itself how actually incredibly rare this is.
If I ask you, because I am skeptical of a point that you're making, let's say, for example, in tonight's Victor Davis Hanson clip, he used the term military grade to describe a firearm. I disagree with the framing of that because this particular Smith & Wesson is not, it's just a standard civilian pistol that's very well known to misfire quite often. And if you said, well, no, actually it is, then I would ask you to come up with a list for me of the time when official sources have referred to firearms as military grade instead of as a term to scare people away from firearms. And then theoretically, you, in this hypothetical, you would present to me a list of things. And if I genuinely want you to list the things, then I will sit there and I will listen to you list the things. Because I asked you, hey, you got a list? And you're like, yeah, Tony, I got a list. Here you go. And then you read the list and then we talk about the various items on the list. But if while someone is reading the list, you talk over them, you give them a bunch of grief over this, and then after like 2 or 3 things where she's finally got a chance to talk, you then cut her and said, so this is why I wanted you to go over that, because I wanted everyone to know how rare, you only said there were 3 things. And she's like, yeah, but I've got like 50 of them on this page alone.
And even when, the Heritage Foundation went looking for non-citizens voting, over the course of, 10 plus years, they found 77 cases, actually more than 10 years, about 24 years. They found 77 instances of non-voters voting, and they went looking, okay? So
now we get to what is called the finder's fallacy, which is that no one found it, so it must not be there. So when one of the most famous journalistic stories in all of history, Upton Sinclair, right? He goes through the Chicago meat processing facilities and he discovers that they're filthy and they're disgusting and they're riddled with mold and rats and therefore rat droppings. And it's nasty. It is disgusting in these facilities. One of the things that the defense then brought out in federal court to defend and hopefully try to prevent the FDA from becoming a thing and regulating certain things about food cleanliness, one of the things they said is, well, we've never found anything. There were no other journalists finding anything, so therefore it didn't happen. I have a lot of respect for a lot of people at the Heritage Foundation. None of them are omniscient. Not a one of them. I have a lot of respect for a lot of investigators out there. None of them are omniscient. Just because something has not been found in an older study doesn't mean it did not occur. And again, I am not one of the individuals, I hate to break it to you, I'm not one of the individuals that thinks that there was enough voting fraud evidence at this moment to have overturned and changed the 2020 election. I'm just, from my read of the data, I could be dead wrong. It's one of the reasons I don't really talk about it a whole lot. I'm still kind of undecided because we're still finding things. Crazy, I know. I'm personally not very sure, so I keep my mouth shut on a lot of it. But when you come out with this, and a fallacy is what you are leaning on, it only endears people to any counter narrative where now they believe that not only are you stupid, you're actively covering up for the fraud itself.
Listen, if this were about people, non-citizens voting, maybe that's the case, then please help me explain why Trump is still obsessed with Georgia, where he was looking for 11,000 votes, where Georgia, they've got voter ID, they've got tough voting laws. Why is he saying that Georgia was a fraudulent state that he actually?
So there you go. That's the final gotcha. Well, I mean, there's not illegals voting, so therefore, why do we need all of these voter ID laws? The point is not the rarity of the crime. For example, at the beginning of the show, because absolutely this is coming full circle, I cited an illegal immigrant from Kyrgyzstan who in the United States obtained a commercial driver's license from Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro in July of 2025 for a fraudulent trucking company in California. And I say fraudulent because they lie on their safety standards and who works for them. That individual, after the results of a pattern of behavior, killed 4 Amish individuals in eastern central Indiana and gravely injured another. And the question when people ask, should we be looking more at standards for commercial driver's licenses and how illegals are getting this stuff in the first place? What is the response? Well, it's so rare. It almost never happens. You're more likely to be bitten by a shark in a pet store that they come with all this kind of, oh, it's so rare, you don't even need to worry about it. That's not the point. The point is not the rarity. The point is whether or not there is a pattern of behavior that is made possible, whether there is a leak in the pipe that is caused by a crappy pipe fitting. Because the laws are written in a certain way that allow individuals to get away with things, this creates problems and headaches and will lead to more deaths. If there is a chance and a place for voter fraud to take place, it will take place. The reason you child-proof your house is not because you expect your toddler is going to impale themselves on every corner of every surface in the house. It is in case one day they trip and fall and their head flies towards the corner of the glass coffee table. God willing, there will be something that prevents them from committing toddler suicide. That's the reason. This idea that rarity determines the morality of laws is stupid. And the left has decided that either it's a moral good for you to just affirm criminal behavior, because after all, they've never been affected by it. They're not going to be the ones housing these individuals. And then when you point out that criminal behavior is still criminal, they'll call you evil or unfriendly or fascist for enforcing it because they don't want to enforce it. They have prosecutorial discretion. And then built on top of that, when you point out that these consistent patterns appear, they then call you racist and homophobic and stupid and a conspiracy theorist and all this other nonsense. The majority of Americans have seen this strategy play out time and time and time again. And if they're going into 2026 with this, midterms are about people coming out to vote for people. And Congress is about as inspiring as pneumonia. So what you need to do is create a compelling reason to go out. The middle-aged left lady crowd, they're already going to come out because they think that if they blow enough rape whistles and ram enough cars, then they've we saved the city kind of nonsense. But you do need more than just the angry leftist Karen vote to win an election. See 2024. So what the right needs to do is continue figuring out how to get calm, level-headed individuals out there to say, no, you're a child. These are the details. These are the receipts. This is the list. This is why. I have it right in front of me. I'm competent. I'm prepared. Here you go. Well, that's a case to be made. That's actually doing things that are successful. Now, one of the things that the right does that is really, really rough is they get out there and they yell for stuff like the left yells for things. They might be yelling for things that are good, but they don't actually take into account in time often, and I'm guilty of this as well a lot of the time, of how certain things are going to take place or how practical things are going to be. Great case in point. At the beginning of the show, I said, I don't know how practical it is, but I think that we need to reactivate our way stations that are often barren and empty when you drive by them on the interstate and start using them like the Tennessee Highway Patrol does and checking on major thoroughfares in this country the immigration status of a lot of semi-truck drivers. A lot of times, though, we make that the only kind of policy that we call for. And there are a lot of people on more of the populist side of the right that just call for things because they're popular. We should just ban this. We should do, and they call for very big sweeping things. Charge them with treason and throw them away. When you do that, it's just as unhelpful as when the left gets out there and says this nonsense as well. It does take a lot of marathon style, not short sprints, but marathon style effort to do this consistently over a long time to fix the country. And that's a really tough truth. Really. And it's not something that has a simple answer for. We have a conversation with Wade Stotts that I'm going to be uploading here pretty soon where we talk about this. When you actually get people ready for the marathon, boomers understand this, by the way, because the Reagan Revolution didn't just happen. There was build up to it. There was dissatisfaction and a call for competence and understanding and common sense that was brought forward. And it's something that in this era of instant gratification, Americans just don't necessarily tap into anymore or willing to put up with for that sacrifice. It's something that we need to return to. And I'm hopeful over the next couple of months that we will see, especially after tax season goes through and we start to see the results of the big, beautiful bill, and we start to actually see some of these results rolling forward, and ego is put aside in place of actual definitive progress for people, again, which there's been a ton of so far, then you're not going to have to do little weird social media accounts and things like that. You can actually drive forward a vision to where we're going. And that's really freaking sweet. One of the things, and I'll end it with this, a little extra bonus tonus is fun, but I realize when I've, started to kind of ramble. The most exciting moment for me when Trump announced his re-election bid in 2023. He got up in front of people, and by the way, at that point, I had donated $50 to the DeSantis campaign because I really do, and still do, really like Ron. I think he's excellent. But the minute that I was convinced to support Trump in the primary was during his announcement speech. Trump had talked a lot about the economy, he talked a lot about election stuff, he talked a lot about various social issues. About 2/3 of the way through the speech, he said, we're going to go to Mars. It's time. The United States needs to once again look towards the stars. He quoted JFK, we go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. The president now, Donald Trump, when he did his re-election speech, announced, I've got a vision for the future. We could go to Mars. First country going to Mars. Imagine Marco Rubio bathing on the sandy shores of Mars. And I thought, an American leader casting a vision that isn't just Bernie Sanders going, we're going to tax the rich and pay for healthcare. We're going to no more deodorant flavors. That's what we're going to do. Instead of that, we actually had, here's where we're going to go. Jobs are going to come back. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to move forward on foreign policy. Here's how we're going to accomplish these things. That inspires not just the youth, but it inspires the young in age and the young in spirit, as of all people, Gary Hart used to say. Another story for another time. Right now, I think the Trump administration has that together. They have stopped a lot of the youthful memery. I don't know if you've noticed on social media, and it's been effective. They have a lot of the, as I call it, the air pilot personalities that have come out to start doing a lot of the talking. It's been effective. All right. So let's do more of that. And that's why I'm encouraged. Yeah, that's the long and short of it. So those things said, I'll just make sure there are no super pressing, extremely urgent mail time questions before we hop off. Tony, you're an interesting cat, says Trey. I like the cut of your jib. Thank you. I can't hear I like the cut of your jib without thinking of The Simpsons and promote that man. So those things all said, I really appreciate each and every one of you. Absolutely. For tuning into the Tony Kinnett Cast, tech issues or not, as we continue to change things and move things around and figure all of this out, we're really glad that you've chosen to give us a bit of your time. I'm going to ask a bit of a weird favor this evening. If you go over to Apple Podcasts and search the Tony Kinnett Cast, you'll find the audio version of our show. If you like the show, would you consider giving us a 5-star rating? It's helpful. Yeah, that's it. That's the one little weird request that I have this evening. If one of the fine producers, whether it be producer Daniel or producer Jen, might throw in the link to the Tony Kinnett Cast over on Apple Podcasts, just to, if you're feeling super generous. Again, we don't want your money, but if you consider leaving a rating, something like that, we'd appreciate it. Yeah, kind of the whole thing. So that said, I hope you have a wonderful Thursday evening. I hope you get a lot of rest. I hope your internet and the services that you use stay up. And also hope that you don't give any of your money to Netflix. But that's a topic for tomorrow's episode. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on The Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Take care.